Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Voices of Value, a roundtable series curated by AscendSource that brings together industry leaders for insightful discussions on challenges, successes, and the pivotal role of technology within their industry. As you know, today's discussion is focused on driving innovation and growth for wholesale distribution leaders. I'm joined by Andrew Howell, SVP with VistaVu, and Daryl Goodman, a Vice President at VistaVu, to lead today's discussion. Before we kick off, I do want to remind you that we are being recorded and that the event will be available on demand afterwards. Also, with this interactive forum, you're encouraged to come on camera, contribute to the dialogue. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand function here at the top of your Teams window, and I will call on you. Or, as always, leverage the chat. It'll be actively monitored throughout the conversation. And we'll kind of pause, as we go through to make sure we're addressing any questions. So first, I'd like to introduce Andrew Howell. Andrew has spent his career enabling organizations to achieve digital transformation through SAP Solutions. Before transitioning to SAP All-in-One for large enterprise clients. Later, he led the development of an SAP Business by Design practice, achieving recognition as a top performer in North America with over 60 digital transformation projects and 85 client engagements across all industries, like wholesale distribution, manufacturing, professional services, and financial services. Andrew also serves as the co-chair of the Partner Advisory Council for SAP S/4HANA Cloud in North America and has co-authored a book on Cloud ERP published by SAP Press. He's dedicated to driving innovation and growth for organizations and through SAP's S/4HANA and BTP solutions, leveraging his extensive experience in leadership. So thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Lauren.
Yeah. Next, we have Daryl Goodman. Daryl is a seasoned leader with over 17 years of experience at VistaVu, where he specializes in distribution, supply chain, and ERP solutions. As a vice president, he oversees VistaVu's strategic account management unit, focusing on fostering client growth, enhancing relationships, and ensuring long-term retention. His expertise spans a comprehensive portfolio and is one of the including S/4HANA Public Cloud, Business Technology, BTP, Business by Design, Business One, and the company's flagship products. He's also a member of the SAP Partner Advisory Council for North America and is recognized as an industry expert in wholesale distribution. He's a CPA who frequently speaks and teaches at university campuses across New York, sharing his wealth of knowledge with the next generation of professionals. So that was a lot. Thank you guys. You guys have very impressive resumes. So now that we've kind of covered the basics, I am very excited to jump into the conversation. For those of you who joined just a few minutes late, this is, again, kind of an interactive forum. Certainly welcome you to come on camera. If you're not speaking, we do encourage you to keep yourselves on mute. We will be monitoring the chat and raise hand functions for any questions throughout today's session. So without further ado, I'd like to kind of kick off our conversation with a question for you, Andrew, and that is, what are the biggest operational and technological challenges you see wholesale distributors facing today? And before you answer, I do want the audience to be thinking, about their own business challenges and things that are happening within their organization, and to kind of keep this, in the spirit of collaboration. Please feel free to put those in the chat if you're agreeing with what Andrew's saying, if you're like, oh my gosh, yes, that is me to a T, or, ooh, Andrew, you're forgetting one. So please, we'll kind of come back to the.
Okay, perfect. Lauren, can you just confirm?
Andrew.
Yeah, can you hear me okay through my mic?
I can, Andrew.
You sound great.
Yes, yeah, Lauren cut out a few times, so apologies for that, but yes, we can hear you great, Andrew.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'll shed some light on what we're hearing from both our client base and prospective clients as it relates to, the operational and technical challenges that they've communicated, to VistaVu over recent months and years. And we'll also shed some light into what we're seeing as future trends, going into 2025. But from an operational standpoint, we ultimately have four major topics that we've gathered, from our ecosystem of clients. Number one is supply chain disruptions, right? So we've all encountered a variety of different global events, geopolitical instability, and natural disasters, which have caused delay, increased cost, and uncertainty within the supply chain. In addition to that, managing inventory levels effectively amidst fluctuating demand and supply volatility has been a challenge as well. The second major topic we've heard surrounds labor shortages and the difficulty in finding skilled labor in areas like warehousing, logistics, and certain technical roles, specifically when they are on a state-of-the-art platform such as SAP. And of course, high turnover rates and the need for training new employees. The third topic that we've solicited input on is the rising costs. As we all know, I think everyone on this call has experienced the recent inflation and increased cost for transportation within their businesses, raw material, and of course, cost on energy, which has all put pressure on the margins that we are looking to achieve within the distribution space. And then, of course, the difficulty of these inflationary pressures and passing these costs on to our customers without risking the loss of their business, right? So they go hand in hand. And the fourth topic we've heard is the increasing expectation of our customers around, faster delivery times, personalized experiences, and real-time order tracking as we ship product to their premises, and so on. So pressure to offer competitive pricing and flexible fulfillment options has been a common thread within the feedback that we've received. From a technological perspective, there's, again, four topics I've got here to discuss. So data management and analytics, right? So in a disparate landscape, consolidating data from multiple sources to gain actionable insights has been a challenge for clients that are often evaluating a cloud ERP and transformation project. There's difficulty in leveraging that data to forecast demand, optimize inventory, and of course, improve their decision-making process. The second topic is a challenge related to legacy systems, right? And so for those of our prospective clients that are reliant on outdated ERP and warehouse management systems, they lack the ability to scale and integrate with their strategic partners. In addition to that, it of course, limits the ability to adopt emerging technologies due to legacy system constraints in the event that they've, customized that legacy system to a certain degree. The third topic I have, which is on the rise and it appears to be a bit of a trend, is of course cybersecurity risks. So there is of course increased exposure to cyber attacks and data breaches as operations become more digitized. And this, of course, is paired with the increased need for security of sensitive data that you might have in your system related to, your customer or the transactions that you may embark on with both the customer and the supply chain. And then last but not least, technology adoption was a common thread for us. So resistance to adopting new tools like AI, IoT, and various forms of automation due to a magnitude of different facets, right? Things like the high cost of these emerging technologies and the lack of technical expertise to support and implement them. So that would summarize, Lauren, the feedback we've received as it relates to operational and technical challenges that our clients and prospective clients have encountered.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I'm curious, from those that are listening in, if those resonate with you in your business, or if there are other challenges that maybe we haven't touched on. Certainly, Daryl, kind of lean on you and your experience. Do you agree with what Andrew shared, or are there other things that organizations are facing today?
Yeah, no, I think, Andrew, was comprehensive and some of the review that we've had from our clients. I think, one of the things that we, kind of see as customers ask these questions is also from a viewpoint of trying to understand, what assumptions they're making about these challenges. And, is it from a perspective of, what's new and what's changed, with regard to these landscapes? Because some of the things, there's perceptions around like, the technology adoptions with the IoT and AI and other kinds of things. And they think, oh, it's complex or it might be expensive. And the reality is that a lot of it is also coming down to just being able to be exposed and learn about these topics to be able to create and align with things that there might be solutions to, or even just learning opportunities within the existing tools that you have that can facilitate these things without, really adding costs or other kinds of things.
Yeah. So now that we've, kind of identified the key challenges and risks, I'd like to understand, how organizations can minimize these, maybe just at like kind of a macro level to start. What have you seen folks do to kind of mitigate this?
Yeah, and so Lauren, I'll start by saying that there are many different strategies to employ, right, to mitigate these challenges and risks. What we've seen as common threads within our client base, some of these solutions are around business strategy, some are around technology, but I have 5 topics that I wanted to socialize with the group, and it starts with building supply chain resilience, right? And so part of that is expanding your network and not relying on a single supplier for sourcing your product if that is an opportunity within your specific business. Within supply chain resilience, there's also a strategy of creating stock buffer for your inventory. So maintaining safety stock for the critical items that are instrumental to your business while optimizing overall inventory levels across all the complementary products you may go to market with. The second topic that we've seen and discussed with our clients relates to enhancing your workforce readiness, right? Which ultimately encompasses both upskilling and reskilling employees through the form of training in technology, data analytics, which is on the rise, of course, and customer service, right? So upskilling and reskilling the workforce. The third thing that we've seen is that you need to be hyper-focused on customer centricity. And again, the 2 things we've seen our clients embark on is omni-channel engagement, just by providing experiences across both the digital and traditional sales channels that we were all accustomed to. And secondly, I think it's an important one, is improving the fulfillment and delivery experience for your customers by enhancing logistics with faster, more reliable shipping options and real-time tracking at their fingertips so they can see where those deliveries are within the delivery process. 2 other topics here is just around fostering strategic partnerships with your suppliers. And by doing so, we would recommend that you do so in a manner where you're sharing data with those suppliers, you're embarking on joint planning, and then, of course, if possible, technology integration, right? I say if possible because there are certain circumstances where a supplier is on an extremely dated system and integration might be cost inhibitive. So if possible, though, we highly recommend integrating and collaborating with your strategic partners in that manner. And then last but not least, if you can leverage a 3PL network by outsourcing some of your non-core logistics operations to specialized providers, this will result in both cost and operational efficiencies. Again, if you have that ability. The last piece to this puzzle, which is just a segue into the next part of our webinar to here, is just leveraging advanced technology, right? So one of the things that VistaVu enables is clients embarking on a modernization project where they get onto a more modern version of IT. So this does encompass replacing legacy systems with scalable ERPs, warehouse management, and order management platforms, such as SAP. Adopting predictive analytics. This is a big topic that our clients are highly interested in, whereby they're using AI and machine learning to forecast demand, identify trends, which ultimately helps improve their decision-making process as they're managing that supply chain. And then, of course, just implementing real-time visibility using, cloud-based platforms to help monitor supply chain activities in real time. This allows you to get ahead of challenges that might come to fruition with the use of real-time visibility into your operations. So that would be the advice we have. There's many other forms of advice, Lauren, but those are the common threads that we're seeing as it relates to our customers and what they're doing, and the advice that we're giving to those that have not embarked on all of those independent strategies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll add to that, I guess, before we move on, just, as you look at how these things kind of tie together, for distributors, there's different businesses. There's integrated, so there's people that are, manufacturing and distribution. There's distributors that are also service organizations. There's all kinds of different variants of people, who are in distribution. But, when you look at the combination of, the supply chain resilience and then, being able to create those strategic partnerships and how it all comes together, it allows, wholesale distributors to kind of focus on their core competency, right? You as organizations that are in your markets, have a depth and breadth of information about your customers that help you be able to identify and improve products with your manufacturers or suppliers, or give them the opportunity to expand into new geographic segments or those kinds of things. But simultaneously, your customers are also going to give you that feedback, that partnership, so that you can make sure that you're able to meet them and their needs, in ways that can be innovative. So, it may not just be traditional warehouse and supply. You might wind up with some consignment stock. You might wind up with all kinds of other ways to be able to approach your customers' needs. So you can really innovate in your go-to-market approach by leveraging the partnerships and the data that you can get from 360, both supplier and customer side. So I think that's really an important kind of change that we're seeing in this market, is really strengthening the adoption on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we did have someone share that they're having challenges with a new deployment in areas related to S&OP and inventory accuracy and financial accuracy and fulfillment, specifically warehousing of finished goods. Any kind of comments or advice there?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's something that if there's details that you'd like to go over, I welcome a conversation so I can kind of share any expertise or ideas that we have. When you're going into, new areas, it's going to depend a lot on whether or not your existing infrastructure is ready to be able to handle those new areas. So there could be different, he says, financial accuracy, and a lot of that goes into inventory costing, just even reporting, like how you're going to organize your data. And so, to the extent that your existing systems have that, then you need the expertise to be able to go into that local market and know, what's required, because there can be legal challenges and compliance issues. Sometimes it comes down to just being able to truly ask whether or not it makes sense to look at a different, solution or a different platform, if you're running into those challenges. And it could be anything from, something as an ERP. But as we talked about, you have also the ability to work with analytic reportings, AI tools, other kinds of things that can really help you be able to identify where your challenges are, in being able to come up with that data. But ultimately, it's a comprehensive approach to trying to be able to make sure that inventory and accounting and finance and all those leaders have come together to be able to understand the important metrics, and then that can help us be able to facilitate reporting and those kinds of challenges, and operational efficiency as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. So given that VistaVu provides technology-based solutions to transform, wholesale distributors, how they operate, can you explain how, SAP can optimize efficiency and streamline operations? So Daryl, I'll go ahead and direct that one to you.
Yeah, as SAP has got over 50 years, of experience being a leader, in their technology platforms. But I think, the idea of saying how SAP, can help optimize really comes down to, how you use SAP. And, the reality is that, for distributors, it's important to be able to make sure that you're working with configurations that are relevant to you, that you're able to streamline the things that are going to add the most value and be able to kind of maximize, your time to value. And so, in that regard, VistaVu has spent a lot of time being able to build pre-built packages that are tailored specifically for the wholesale distribution industry. It gives us the ability to accelerate that timeline so that you get the implementation done in a much shorter time than if you are trying to be able to look at everything that SAP provides, or to be able to look at all the different ways that you can do it. So whether it's from a fit to standard approach, or using other best practices that have come forth from working with other customers, it really helps eliminate that complexity of having to start from scratch. So rather than a blank page, it's here's what we think a business like yours would potentially be able to use, and then it's tailored to your specific needs, and then you get to tweak what you need. Ultimately, though, reduced implementation risk, proven results right out of the box. And then in order to be able to really kind of make that relevant to the audience, I just wanted to kind of explain what it means when we talk about the package solution. A part of it is also making sure that we have a comprehensive set of KPIs. And these KPIs are going to help you be able to monitor your operations efficiently. So, kind of going back to, the question that was asked earlier about entering into a new market, being able to know what you want to measure and how to be able to measure them are going to be really important. And those can be in finance, procurement, inventory, sales, quality management, and they all become particularly valuable. So, for example, for financials, you might want to be able to know your DSO, which stands for Days Sales Outstanding, as well as your gross margin percentages. And this is important to know, not just in what happened last month, but you really want to be able to get to the point where you have real-time information. Being able to track this in SAP is going to help you directly be able to be responsive and prioritize your efforts and improve cash flow. And then, again, for sales, it's not, just how you get paid, but what is your order fulfillment rate? What's your customer retention rate? What's your sales revenue by, different things like region or channel or any of the other areas, the metrics that allow you to be able to find your areas of high performance or weak performance. And you can focus and double down your efforts on those areas of high performance, or for the areas of weak performance, you can identify whether or not they're core to your operations, whether or not it's something that you want to improve in, or whether or not something you want to take away, an emphasis on, so that you can focus on the areas that are going to create and drive satisfaction and customer satisfaction and revenue. And again, inventory is really important for distributors as well. So, we want to be able to understand your inventory turnover ratio, inventory accuracy, days inventory outstanding, because let's face it, you don't want to be, thin on your inventory, because you want to be able to meet your customers' needs, but you also don't want to unnecessarily tie up cash that could be put to better use, unnecessarily storing inventory. So again, being able to have the technology or tooltips to be able to understand and balance that levels and be able to use predictive information to know when you're going to need more or when there's potential for disruption. And again, working with the partnership with your suppliers to be able to understand what they can commit to, and how you're able to leverage that for whether it's better pricing, or better inventory time. Those are all, really great ways to be able to leverage a tool like SAP, for distributors.
Yeah, thanks. And next I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the success stories that you guys have seen, and kind of some real life examples. But before we do, we did have a question come in. Can you provide your point of view on master data management? Specifically, how do you develop and manage finished good and raw material item master? How do you align it across multiple 3P systems like Kinaxis, Salesforce, and maintain them across many systems?
It's a great question, because it can really create a lot of inefficiency if you are manually trying to replicate data or inconsistently doing data, and those create challenges. They're of course understandable. It happens in everyone's business. You're trying to do your best, but you're creating some of your own challenges, your own roadblocks to success there. So, typically speaking, you talk about an ERP system being the source of truth, right? So you want to try to be able to understand where your source of truth is going to be. It doesn't necessarily mean that the ERP is always the originator of the data. You potentially have PIMs, which are product information management systems that can help supplement external data that you might be pulling from big data, all kinds of ways that you can get the data or the attributes. But again, ultimately, what you want to be able to do is you're organizing integration across these different systems, is making sure that you internally have, or organizationally, you create where is your source of truth and where your master data is going to originate from. If you've got extremely complex master data management, there are master data management systems that are solutions that are called line of business applications that supplement the core features of the ERP. So you're not limited just to what the ERP can do. But ultimately, being able to do that then also goes into the integrations. And really, one of the great things that we've seen, over the past several years is, the cloudification of these systems. So I know one of the ones that was called out is, Salesforce. And so SAP and Salesforce, both cloud applications, give you the ability to use APIs and other types of integrations. And this is an area where AI is actually starting to really change the game and how integrations come to bear, because the APIs have always existed, but you might have needed heavy lifting with respect to developers and knowledge to be able to kind of push that data. And now AI is really kind of shortening that integration cycle and making it possible to be able to understand and rationalize that data where you may have, transformation that needs to happen. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to be able to understand where your data resides and who owns it and who has the authorizations to maintain it and a policy. And then from there, being able to just look at source of truth and what your architecture looks like.
Yeah, well said, Daryl. I don't have much more to add other than, from my experience, I've seen multiple flavors of that system architectural design with respect to system of record for the data entry piece, the maintenance of that piece. And it's not just the master data, Daryl, as you alluded to around material masters, right, with finished goods raw material. There's also pricing that's involved here, which creates that element of complexity, especially when you're integrating with a product like Salesforce. But the key is leveraging these technologies to get a very defined system of record architecture, and then using technology to pass the data across to eliminate duplicate entry. The only thing I could really add, I think it was well said, Daryl, as to your response to Dipinder's question.
Thanks, Andrew. Any other questions before we move on? All right, so I think, here we go. So what role do you see AI playing in S4 implementation projects beyond the integration point you've mentioned? That's a great question.
Yeah, well, Lauren, we do have actually a surprise guest on the call that's not one of the presenters. We've asked our resident expert in AI, Chris Hogan, to join us on the call. So I will ask that Chris fields this question, just generally speaking. But I will, before I pass the mic to Chris, what I will say, VistaVu as an organization has taken on the mindset that we are an AI-first organization. We've actually adopted now across all of our employees, and in some cases, certain subcontractors, the use of Copilot to help expedite some of the way, well, not expedite, but leverage the everyday AI that helps us gain efficiencies as an organization. And we've also gone to market with certain AI technologies within our various client bases. But I'll pause there. I don't know, Chris, could you maybe shed some light on how AI would play a role in S4 implementations beyond just integration?
Yeah, I can get some color there, and I'll answer it really from two perspectives. First, from the implementation perspective, but I think also probably folks are curious from like the end user's perspective. So I'll give you just a flavor of both. So from the implementation perspective, yeah, exactly to what Andrew said. So there's tools out there. We're all familiar with tools like ChatGPT, and Copilot is very much similar to that, but very tuned into your work data and secured. And so absolutely using tools like that and the generative technology where, and to Daryl's point, like really what it is those tools and their ability to like synthesize information really quickly and distill it down and transform it. So particularly like in an implementation setting, implementation consultants, even the customer team, maybe that has access to those tools, a lot of that kind of knowledge and documentation that you'd be working with to like synthesize requirements and transform those into an understanding of project plans, test scripts, all of that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of new opportunities like in an implementation setting. On the other side, in terms of like users, like once you have the ERP implemented, again, using generative tools. So SAP's got one named SAP Joule. And there's lots of other solutions that are bringing the same kind of thing where users now have this tool, like their little co-pilot, their buddy, where they can ask questions about how do I do this, or where do I go in the system to perform a certain transaction. And it doesn't stop just at, like the transactions they're doing. We've heard, Andrew and Daryl talk about like analytics and things like that. So even when you're pulling up reports and trying to get an understanding of like, what is this report telling me? Summarize it for me. Where are the problems in the data here, the insights, like surfacing up that kind of stuff a lot quicker is where you're seeing those kinds of tools already now, coming to market, coming into solutions. The last thing I would say just around, because I've talked only about the example of generative AI, the audience here around like supply chain, right, and disruption and trying to get more control and prediction around that. Also, solution publishers have embedded AI solutions, machine learning, like right into the software. So a lot more solutions that they're bringing where they can just help with, right, better predictions, better reports of those kinds of things that you're already looking at. So there's a lot more to unpack, on that topic, but that's just what I would say, just to address the question and welcome a conversation, if anybody's curious to talk more about that.
Yeah. And I'd like to add for Pratik, one of the things, and Chris, you can maybe talk about this too, but you and I are both in the cloud transition partner advisory council with SAP, and we've been focused a lot on how customers that are might be running ECC going to S4 or Business One or by design going to S4, which is in the SAP family. But the reality is that a lot of the tools and techniques and approaches that we're working with are also good from any legacy ERP, and we've been working towards that. So I mean, just in terms of being able to understand requirements, whether it comes from RFPs or other kinds of things, I mean, what more can you kind of shed around how the actual implementation from scope and everything else like that, AI is contributing?
Well, I think actually, you really touched on it there. I mean, really, the power of tools like generative AI tools is their ability to look at information, knowledge, and understand it, and then distill it and transform it. So to your point, like it doesn't really matter so much like what ERP system it is, like what you're looking at, as long as you can guide it with the right instructions, it will do a ton for you in terms of getting understanding of so imagine just that we were in a conversation actually, right? And we're conversing and, we're helping implement whatever the system might be. And there happens to be customers on the other end. All that dialogue back and forth really is all the information and knowledge that we need to work with so that we can translate that into a system. So we do that with SAP, but again, it could be really any solution. And so now taking generative tools and, with the partner, the implementer, pointing them at that source of knowledge, they can kind of almost mine that, right? To help them synthesize it down to what do we talk about? What were the requirements? What were the KPIs that are most important to that business? All that stuff becomes a lot more, a lot faster and easier to basically work through with these kinds of tools.
There is a question there. Another question related to AI. I knew this would be a hot topic, but Chris, it's related to AI capabilities in SAP like Joule. Are they only able to be leveraged within S/4HANA or on all SAP instances? This might be someone that's using ECC as asking the question, but I'll leave it to you to respond there.
Yeah, it's a great question and a very exciting space for SAP and anybody who's using SAP solutions. The short answer is it's not just in the SAP ERP. They are bringing it into other solutions like SuccessFactors, and their plan, their roadmap is to bring Joule into essentially all of their applications and line of business applications so that, in the not too distant future, there's functionality coming all the time, you'll be able to have this Joule Copilot buddy and working with it wherever you are, and it'll be a pretty seamless experience across these different solutions. So they've brought it out like in their analytics solutions. They've brought it out into SuccessFactors. They've brought it out into S/4HANA Cloud. In terms of the other solutions, like there's only so much that we can see on their roadmap, but like I said, as far as everything they're communicating, their plans are to bring it out, I would say primarily in their cloud solutions, and in terms of how far that goes to on-premise solutions, time will tell. But yeah, big strong roadmap on SAP for bringing that across all their products in cloud.
Yeah, and also for ECC customers or by design or Business One, we've seen the ability to work with AI with a tool like MyWave that I recommend with and work with a lot of my customers that allows us to be able to, if Joule isn't particularly available yet, MyWave is a platform that, an example, gives us the ability to use the agentic AI as a tool to be able to work on these existing platforms. So it's not something that you have to wait for. AI, I think, is something that everybody can adopt, whether it's Microsoft Copilot, a MyWave, or Joule. I think now is the time to at least understand where your AI journey is going to go. I think that's going to be important.
Yeah,
lots of options.
So Daryl and Chris, Lauren, I am seeing a lot of questions coming in around the AI topic, which of course is at front of mind for a lot of folks on this call, including VistaVu. As I mentioned, we're an AI first company. What I'd like to recommend, Chris is actually hosting a series of AI orientated webinars and learning sessions over the course of the next couple of weeks and months. And for those of you that are interested, please reach out and we can send you that information for you to join those sessions. But he'll go into a lot of the detail and questions that are being posed in the chat here. I just don't think we have the luxury of time to go through it in fine detail on this call. I'm also cognizant of time because Chris has to drop in about 7 minutes to another lunch and learn around AI. So be happy to extend the invite to this team as an outcome of this webinar.
Yeah, and Chris, if you want, we'll kind of move on with the dialogue, but feel free to respond to Kathy and Pratik, and we can certainly schedule some follow-ups as well. But if you want to put those answers in the chat, the team will have those. But do appreciate and glad you were able to join, and I really appreciate all the questions. So we'll kind of keep it going. So we've covered a lot of ground so far, and now I'd like to kind of tie it back to some of the successes and use cases that you have seen, in both of your careers, that, folks on the line can kind of learn from.
Yeah, I'll start with that. I think, kind of the way that Andrew was outlining before, we have, a couple of themes that we see, kind of success in, and I'll just kind of go over what the three themes are that I think are important, and then I'll kind of step back and give some examples to it. But I think, one of the most important ones is time to value. And what that means is, you want to, particularly in this kind of competitive, world where, you have the ability to create a competitive advantage, and be able to grow or to be able to not get left behind or anything else along those lines. You've got to be able to strike while the iron's hot. And that means that you need to be able to understand what's available, get it implemented, and have your users and customers and everyone else start to use that. It can't be something that stays on a roadmap forever or it takes years to do. That's just not the speed that business is operating at anymore. And then ultimately what that does is it helps with operational efficiencies, which is kind of the second theme. And operational efficiencies can give you the ability to do more with less. I think AI drives a lot of that, but also just being able to make sure that you're being efficient across the board in terms of reducing errors, increasing customer satisfaction, getting better financial data. And that can also, it can be a technology solution, but it can also be just improving on what you already have. So it's not always about putting in something new. And I think that's important. I work with our strategic clients, mostly focused on the existing client base. And really, we're looking to try to help them be able to maximize their ROI on their existing investments. And I think that also goes into kind of the last, kind of major theme, which is just making sure that you have a partner that you're working with. In our case, the experience with VistaVu, with our customers is something that it's one of our core environments. I mean, we focus on customers for life, and that means we want to take customers that are going to grow, and they may grow to the point where they need new platforms and the like. But even if they're sticking within their existing platforms, we need to make sure that we're constantly engaged with them. And so, just to give you an example, on that first one, we recently implemented a company. This company had 10 companies globally that they needed to work with. These companies were multi-language, multi-region, and they needed on-site support and training. And so, they were US headquartered. 4 of the 10 companies were in the US, but it gave us the opportunity as VistaVu to be able to coordinate with multiple vendors. We were able to help successfully make sure that their regional custom configuration was appropriate. So everything that was in the US was US centric, but in their international, we needed to make sure we accomplished that. And ultimately, we were able to go from signature to the pilot company within 12 weeks. And then we were able to go production on the first 2 of the 4 companies in the US within 6 months. So, it really was from start to finish, very quick. And then the advantage of working with coordination and everything else like that is all the 10 companies got to be rolled out. We were basically doing another company per month, with on-site training support and being able to make sure that people had properly tested. We went through, the proper methodology. I know, in the S4 space, we talk about the activate methodology and making sure that we expertly bring that to the table so that we have all the appropriate organizational change management practices, all the things that are going to make success. So it's not just about speed, because anybody can install software and turn on the switch. It's successful implementation, and being able to make that come to bear. And then, in terms of operational efficiencies, we've got, Reliance Communication out there as one of our success stories, and they were able to change how they were using scanning technology. We implemented, more capability within their WMS, putting in 2D barcoding and other types of changes to be able to tweak that, and it reduced their orders to within less than 1%. So they have a less than 0.01% order error. And to give you scale, right, that's not just on a small amount. They shipped 1.5 million smartphones within their first month. So 1.5 million smartphones, and this is going back years, they've grown since. 1.5 million with a 0.1% error rate really creates the reliability that they need to be able to satisfy their markets. And that was something that really was just about making sure that we focused on a very specific targeted need. In other cases where we wanted to improve on what a company already had, we had a packaging company that already had SAP. They had come SAP with a different partner, and they came to VistaVu and they wanted to be able to really get some insight into what they could do. And we found that there was inefficiency in their production. They were a distribution and production capabilities, and so we were able to work with them to really provide manufacturing training. So it was mostly just around, the rest of their accounting and all that kind of stuff was good, but they just lacked training and understanding of how to be able to use their existing capabilities within production and expanding their data, so that their BOM setups, the bill of materials for those aren't manufacturing distributors, were more accurate. That led to better financial reporting. And better routing, so they could capture costs, labor costs, and other kinds of things better. So they got better financial reporting and better cost controls and inventory controls, just out of being able to reuse what they have. And then another company that we work with, a larger company up in Canada called Big Steel Box, they came to us and they wanted us to help them kind of reimagine their workflows. And so that started by having process mapping and just being able to understand what those workflows that they had worked with. So we started by going through and making sure that they had a thorough understanding of what was actually happening on the ground, what the managers thought was happening, what the goals and objectives were for the company, and helping them blueprint. And then ultimately we wound up helping them with a rationalization, a reimagining of those workflows, which included being able to work with systems like Salesforce. So we wound up putting Salesforce in as a portion, very tightly integrated with the ERP, so that you have the ability to really kind of drive that. And then I guess just in terms of a couple of other examples of working with VistaVu as the right partner, we had a company called Edmonton Exchanger. They had been a customer of ours on a small business platform for over 15 years with one of their companies that was focused on distribution and services. And for 15 years, everything had been great, but they've grown tremendously, and it got to the point where they needed a next level system. So they were talking to us about that. But the trusted relationship that we had built with them over 15 years gave us the ability to guide them through an accelerated evaluation process. And we were able to help solve a problem. It was a multi-year problem that they had with one of the businesses we weren't working with. They had a manufacturing business that was running on a different platform. And by going through and being able to understand their business and know the industry and know them, we had people that had worked on the project 15 years ago that were still available to come in and talk with them. But this gave us the ability to help them ultimately consolidate all of their businesses enterprise-wide on S/4HANA Cloud. And again, they also are a relatively quick time to value, but I won't go there. And I guess just last, before I maybe ask Andrew if he's got anything to add, would be we're working with a very kind of large, well-known hardware retailer and distributor. They are an advocate, but we're not allowed to use their name publicly. But in any case, we started with their relationship about 10 years ago with one of their subsidiaries, and this company, has grown in their relationship with us, where we went from simply starting with support and supporting one of their, subsidiary organizations, to really being engaged and helping them enter new markets, particularly internationally, and helping them address complex legal compliance issues, and then simplifying, their integrations and upgrades. So it gave us the opportunity to be able to really build trust up the organization to the point where we started working with, the corporate parent, which is substantially larger, and their enterprise architects, because we're helping them try to build a strategy for their next generation systems. So I think when you get that trust and experience of being able to have deep industry knowledge, consistency with your team members, and always there for you, core value that we emphasize in our life, to make sure that, the customers can talk to us more about just what they need rather than how to do something on their platform. That's part of our customer for life.
Yeah, nothing to add, Daryl. That was a lot of content in short order. So maybe Lauren, we can move on if you'd like.
Yeah, and if anybody has any kind of last questions or comments, feel free to put them in as we kind of start wrapping up our conversation and time together today. One of the core values of Voices of Value is making sure that we're really sharing best practices and learning from each other. And so I always like to ask, Andrew and Daryl, in your experience and having worked with lots of companies over the years, what advice would you give someone who is embarking on a technology project and is ready to kind of take that step? What are things that they should take into consideration that you've seen over your years of experience?
Yeah, I'll field that one, Lauren. Thank you. And I wish we had another hour, because I could go through a laundry list of a variety of different advice. But at the end of the day, embarking on a technology project, you do need to start by defining very clear objectives, right? Just clarity around why you are embarking on this project. So you do need to articulate the purpose of the project and the problems the project aims to solve. You need to embark on that SMART principle of defining smart measurable outcomes to assess how you can measure success post the implementation of that technology. The second thing I would say is engage stakeholders early. It's never too early to have alignment within your teams, which includes IT, operations, and end users, on the reason for the project and the business needs. And I think in that engagement model, what's instrumental is having a project sponsor who can champion the initiative and ensure that there's executive support of pursuing this journey. The next piece of the puzzle for me would be conducting a thorough needs assessment, right? So you do need to understand what your organization's current processes look like today, what are the pain points within that realm, and the capabilities that it enables within your current operations. In that whole process, you obviously need to document both the functional and technical requirements, as that will help guide your decision-making process as you embark on this journey into a technology evaluation. The two most important topics I've left for the end here, which is plan for change management. Don't underestimate the impact of a technology project and its impact on your organization. Again, it starts with informing employees about the project goals and the benefits it'll provide to them, so you can foster buy-in. You need to ensure that they are equipped with comprehensive training so you can maximize the adoption and reduce the resistance that might potentially exist within the ecosystem of your employee base. And then last but not least, I want to emphasize this because there are three elements to a successful implementation of most technology platforms. So this is advice that's kind of agnostic, although very relevant to SAP. I call them the three legs in the stool. What drives a successful implementation is the system, which is the embedded best practices, that's SAP. It's the data that you put into that system. Everyone's heard of garbage in, garbage out. And then it's the enablement of the people and how they use that system and data to operate your organization. So from a data preparation perspective, I want everyone to appreciate that loading and validating your data into your new system represents the final stage of data migration. To ensure a smooth transition into that new system, it'll be critical to cleanse and prepare your data well in advance of even starting the implementation project. So this will help minimize the potential process disruptions that could be caused by poor data quality. And so again, emphasizing this, everyone could be working on data cleansing activities even without a technology project on the horizon. So those would be my 5 areas of advice for organizations that are in the early stages of an evaluation. There's a lot more advice we could give depending on where you're at. Maybe you're in the middle of RFP and you need, some advice there. But I'll pause with that, Lauren. I think that's good enough for today.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. We like to say here at Ascensource, the software works, right? It's how you implement it, how you adopt it, that is going to ultimately set your organization up for success. And I think a key component of that as well is the partner that you choose to help you on that journey and how they're guiding you and their strength as a partner and the cultural fit between the two organizations. Can you talk just a little bit the next few minutes here, kind of what makes a good partner and kind of who VistaVu is as a partner if when you engage with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely, Lauren. And I think the implementation partner like a VistaVu, we of course play a critical role in your success in these engagements. As you can appreciate, our team would have to collaborate very closely with your organization. So throughout the implementation process, your internal resources would work closely with the resources we assign to the engagement, ultimately representing what we call a unified team. Right? Our success is your success. It's one team that needs to be operating in unison in order to achieve a successful outcome. So as a partner, what I would look for, just generally speaking, is a partner that brings not only technical knowledge to the table, but they do have valuable insights related to industry and, of course, proven methodologies that enable the implementation of the technology. A good partner also doesn't just deliver the project. They also set you up for ongoing success by ensuring that the solution is scalable, maintainable, and effective in the long term, right? So we don't want to lose sight of the short-term pains for long-term gains, right? As the phrase goes. They also need to focus on knowledge transfer so that your team can take ownership of the technology post-implementation. If knowledge transfer does not take place, you'll be reliant on that partner for the long term and ultimately driving up your total cost of ownership due to the level of engagement that you would rely on in that partner. They also need to provide a proven implementation approach with very clear timelines, milestones within that timeline, and of course, deliverables. And I don't want to lose the emphasis on the focus on quality assurance and testing to avoid post-go live issues that could inhibit your organization adversely. They also need to be committed to change management. I emphasized that in the prior question with Lauren, with a strong emphasis on user adoption, and they need to bring comprehensive training programs to the table to facilitate that transition. They also need to be forward-looking to make sure that this solution can grow with your business. And finally, what I'll conclude with is, and I think this is the most important point, there needs to be a strong cultural fit that aligns with your company's values and working style. The ability to work and operate in an implementation based on trust is instrumental to the success and the outcome of these engagements. So I'll end there, Lauren.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think also to add to that, as you are considering partners, I think it's important that you do your homework. Ask around, ask for customer references, make sure that they do what they say they can do. That's, I think sometimes organizations put a lot of emphasis on the technologies selection. You need to put the same amount of onus on who the partner is because you're going to be working with them for years to come, and it needs to be the right fit for your organization on all the things that you touched on. So I know we have just a few moments, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of start wrapping up. So I will start with you, Daryl, on any kind of final comments from today, and then I'll have Andrew kind of wrap and close for us.
Yeah, like I said, I think, just as we're looking at what the future is for wholesale distributors, I think you're going to look at it from the perspective of how technology comes to bear, like you mentioned, the customer centricity, but really just understanding that there's still people involved. Like you said, the partner is important. It's important for you to be a good partner to your customers. You can do it. You can implement digital platforms, AI, all those things, but ultimately, it really comes to working with your customers and making sure that you are sustainable in your practices. And Andrew, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I have a bit of a call to action just for everyone on the call. If you are interested in learning more about VistaVu and what we have to offer for wholesale distributors or manufacturers, I did see there's a lot of manufacturers on the list of participants here. Please feel free to reach out to Daryl and I directly. We will be providing an asset following this call, which will include some insight into an example of a package that we go to market with for wholesale distributors that helps complement that time to value approach of implementing expeditiously based on best practices. So again, if you would like to reach out to us, our contact information will be included on that asset. And again, also to extend the offer to join our AI sessions led by Chris. He has a wealth of knowledge in that area and is definitely ahead of the curve, I think, more than most in terms of understanding AI and the different forms of AI that can impact your operations. So I'll end there and say thank you to everyone for participating in the webinar, and have a great December holiday season as we embark on a new fiscal year of 2025.
Awesome. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Andrew, so much for your time. This does conclude our session. I do want to thank everyone who was able to join today. And as Andrew mentioned, we'll be following up with the recording and some additional assets. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.
Excellent. Thank you, folks.